Welcome to the We Are Claimin'It podcast, where real women take real steps towards healthier living, meaningful purpose, and income that truly transforms their lives and their family's future. I'm your host, Tammy Guillory. If you're done waiting for the right time, you're in the right place. Let's get started. I am so honored to have my dearest friend and my mentor, and she may not know I was going to say that, but Caprice Cline is with us today. Caprice is the co-owner of Cypress Roofing, which is a woman-owned company. She runs alongside with her two daughters, Samantha and Alexandra. And, here's the thing, it's in an industry that has traditionally been a man's world, right? But before we talk about business, I really want to share why this conversation is truly personal to me. Caprice and I go way back. And so that is why I asked her to be my first interview. I don't remember, Caprice, was it 2009 or 2010 when you and I first connected by a phone call? Do you remember what year that was?
I left that company in 2013, and you were with the company how long?
Well, I was there for, till 2016. I think it was 2009 that you were moving from Oklahoma back. Well, not that you ever moved, but I think you were coming back as a divisional to Louisiana. Maybe it was 2009 then.
Yeah, so that's when we would have talked on the phone first. Someone told me that
Okay.
you were amazing, and I couldn't wait to talk to you.
Well, that's when Caprice and I met. So it has been a long time. She was actually calling me to hire me for a corporate sales position. And what I will tell you is that one phone call changed everything for me. I can look back and I know now that it was a divine appointment. God used that moment to put me on a path that I didn't even know that I needed. I truly would not be where I'm at today without the opportunity and the leadership that you poured into me and that company poured into me. And I really do believe that. So I want to thank you, first of all, before we get started.
Right back at you.
So, just to kind of set this up, Caprice, today I really want our listeners to know you, not just the success they see now, because I think so often people celebrate us once we arrive, but they don't know the messy middle or what it took us to get there. And that's really what I want to talk about today.
Yeah, for sure, Tammy. You're right, though. People want to celebrate with you when things are going great. But when you're down in those trenches, right? When you're working hard, or even before that, a lot of people aren't around, right? And so you've got to be able to, ask God for direction and just be someone who can be self motivated. From a very early age, I knew that I wanted more than what I saw my parents had accomplished. And let me just tell you something. My dad was a wonderful dad. My mom is still a wonderful mom. But there were just things in their lives as far as finances and things like that that I knew that I didn't want to emulate, that I knew that I wanted to change. I knew that some of this was breaking generational, I don't want to call it curses, but certainly generational things that had happened for a very long time. I knew I needed to break that. And so from an early age, I knew my life was going to look different. I just didn't know how it was going to look different. But I just remember being, thinking to myself all the time. And my mom and dad told me this: you can do anything you put your mind to. And as a child, I believed them. We believe everything our parents say, right? Either good or bad.
Right.
I was, I mean, but I was very fortunate that my parents really fed into me that I could do and be anything that I wanted. And so I just had that mindset even as a young child. And then, like you, I had a couple of things happen in my life that when I look back on now, I know it was God working. I know that it was divine appointments, like you said. A couple of things. I went to work for the Dale Carnegie courses in Baton Rouge. I worked for Jim Winter, who was at that time in charge of the courses in Baton Rouge. So knowing how to speak and how to carry on a conversation and just all of those things, Dale Carnegie, one of the greatest of all time, right? So I had that. Left from there and then went to the Hilton, became a catering sales manager. Really didn't know a lot about sales or management at the time. I had done some, but that really put me on the course. Through that job, I met then the division manager at the time for the company you and I would both go to work for, right? Corporate America. And when I was introduced to him, I thought, this is a job I need to go after. And that's what I did. I went after it full force. I interviewed for a year and a half before I was hired. And that changed the trajectory of my life, of my kids' life, my life in general. And without those 22 years of corporate America, I would have never been able to do the things that I'm doing now. I'm not going to say I never could have done it. I would have figured out another way, but it surely set me up for understanding business and being able to thrive.
So I'm curious, and I know a little bit about this because I know you,
Right.
but I want you to take me back a little bit.
Okay.
Tell us about Caprice as a teenager and a young adult, even before you went um, into business, right? And having those jobs. Did you have confidence back then, or do you think you were still figuring yourself out?
I think it was 50-50. Always had a lot of confidence in myself. Okay. I was born with a teardrop birthmark on my face. And it was like a birthmark, not like a skin, but almost like a mole type birthmark. And so it was very noticeable. As a small child, people would ask me about it. So I had to grow some tough skin from an early age. And, at the time, why me, Lord? Why did you have to give me this birthmark? But now, when I look back at it, it was just something in my life that shaped me because I had to have tough skin. I had to not let no's or rejection or anything like that bother me because this is something I lived with on a daily basis, right? And so, because of that, it gave me a lot of self confidence. I was voted wittiest in my class, freshman to senior year. And, I'm sure that is
If anybody knows you, they know that is still the truth. And Alex is just like you. I'm just saying. I mean, come on.
I'm still voted wittiest every year. That's right. In my own home. But anyway, my husband probably doesn't think I'm very funny, but that's okay. My kids certainly don't think I'm funny, but that's okay. But I used humor as a way as a child too to kind of overcome, you know, my birthmark as well. And so all those things, I mean, I went out for cheer, I was a cheerleader, I played ball, I was president of 4-H, I was this, I was that. And it was because of the confidence, because I didn't have my birthmark removed until I was in my 20s. Now, let me say this for all of you out there who you're thinking, I didn't have a great start in life. I don't have the education. I don't. Well, I didn't either. Okay. I only had a high school education. So when I went into corporate America, I always felt a little less than because I didn't have that degree. Right. But you know what? I was the one feeling that I was less than. Nobody was telling me that I was less than, but that's how I felt. Okay. And then number two, my gosh, I made so many mistakes on a personal level in business. My late teens and early 20s, a train wreck. Okay, a train wreck. But the great thing about life is that God gives us a new day every day to learn, to have more knowledge, to make different decisions, all those things. And I finally got it together. I would say probably in my, early 20s, probably about 22 or 23, because I remember that's the same time that all of a sudden I thought my parents were smart, right? But yeah, so my early days, now I was always a very hard worker. I started working at 14 in a grocery store, at checkout. And so I have been working since I was 14. So I've always had a strong work ethic. And I've carried that with me, thank goodness.
Yeah. I think, and work ethic is huge, and I can see that. I also started working at 14 too, so we have that in common. I don't know
We
if I
have
knew
so
that.
many things in common.
I know,
That's why we're
right? And you talked
friends.
also about just stewarding what we have and how just being alive is such a gift. And, I was just on a call earlier today and we were talking about that, right? It's a
Yeah,
gift to be alive.
good
It's a
gift.
gift to be able to do today. And, when we steward what is well, that's when more blessings are going to come in that area.
Yeah, I was just talking to one of my kids about that the other day. I said, the Bible tells us if we can't handle little, if we cannot handle little, then how can he give us big? Because we're not going to be able to handle that either. So, whatever job you're in, whatever level of money you're at, whatever your situation, you've got to show that you can handle it before you can be given even more blessings.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I'm realizing that even more. It's funny, as you mature, you just become wiser and wiser, thank God, right?
I know it. Woo woo.
So I know everybody's kind of curious, right? Like, how did Cypress Roofing come about? You know,
Oh boy. Yeah.
I know this is kind of a story to unpack, but, it's such a male dominated business. How did that come about? And how did you guys land in that?
After 22 years of immense dedication and loyalty, I was terminated, right? So all of a sudden, after 22 years, I didn't know what I was doing, but that's okay. I was terminated. At the time, I thought it was literally the end of the world. I did not see a path forward. You and I were talking a lot during that time. You know that I was trying to figure out what did my life look like after those 22 years, right?
Yeah.
I was devastated because really my identity was wrapped up in that corporate job. The way I viewed myself, everything was tied up in that job. And so I didn't see a way forward. You can testify to this because you and I were spending a lot of time together during that phase of my life. There was probably a year that I really wasn't sure what I was going to do. And I knew I wanted to own my own business. I've been wanting to do that for a very long time. So I started a business that I thought would be something great, and it would have been something great, but what I didn't love was having to be in one place for about 12 hours a day because in my corporate job, I was never in my office or very rarely in my office. And so that was not working for me. So I was able to sell it. And then I went to work for a few years taking pictures of babies. I worked for a company that did newborn photography. That
I forgot about that season. You reminded me. I remember that.
And I just remember at the time, I want to do something that is fun, you know? So I asked my husband, I said, what's the minimum amount of money that I need to make? I just, I needed a break from pressure, right? So I got to go up there and take pictures of babies, and I just loved it. And was working with one of my dear friends who I had been in corporate America with, and so just after a few months, she's like, "Hey, they're looking for a regional sales trainer," and I was like, "No." Nope, 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 don't want to do that. Well, I kind of already told them that, you would interview. And I was like, why'd you do that? But anyway, I interviewed. I ended up accepting the job, and it was fine. I did that for 3 years, and then the company sold out, and so everybody didn't have a job like one day. And so once again, I was like, "What am I going to do?" But I had just told Ronnie, my husband, I said I'm going to take a little time off and just kind of enjoy life for a couple of months, and then I'll start looking. Well, my daughter Alex was working for a contractor. She had just started working for a contractor like maybe 6 months before, and they were just starting their roofing division. And so as soon as I told her that, I no longer had a job, she told the owner, she goes, "My mom is available and you need somebody for your sales team." So anyway, what I thought was going to be a 3 month layoff, or a little rest time ended up being 2 weeks. And so anyway, I started working at this roofing company, and then my son started working at the roofing company, my daughter Sam, my son Josh. We all started working there, and just for a few reasons, it just really wasn't working out. So we would have all had to go get another job or start our own business. And so obviously we decided to start our own business. And but I can say this, that we started with nothing. When I tell you we had nothing, we ordered business cards. We ordered two computers off of QVC so we could pay the monthly, the QVC monthly plan, right? And
Yes.
then we ordered some magnets for our vehicles. And that is all we had. And, because when we left the former company, we all made a decision that we were going to bring nothing with us, no leads, no nothing, that we were going to start from scratch, that if we were going to start our own company, we were going to do it the right way. And so we door knocked for 10 months, literally every day except Sundays. And we were already starting to get some traction. We had started doing a little bit of advertising. We had joined Rotary, a couple of different things, and joined Chamber of Commerce. And then a hailstorm hit Port Allen, and we were in COVID lockdown, but because we're in construction, we were considered essential. And so we went out there, and from there, our business exploded. And then Ida came, and here we are. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
unbelievable.
It is. It is. And how many years has it been, Caprice?
It has been 6.5 years.
Oh my goodness, that long.
July 1st of 2019 was our first day. I was on vacation for the first week. My kids
Yes,
my
indeed.
kids never let me forget that because we always go to our camp for our anniversary. So they're like, "Mom, you weren't even here for the first week we're in business." I was like, "It's okay, y'all got it." But Tammy, we worked very hard. But going to back to one of your original questions was being females in a male, mainly male dominated industry. It's been a struggle. But then it hasn't been. It's been a struggle because sometimes, like Sam, and Sam is short for Samantha to all of your viewers because you think it was a boy. But Samantha, she would go, show up at somebody's door to do an inspection, and they would say, "Oh, okay, well, when is the guy going to get here to do the inspection?" And she would say, "Well, I am the guy." And that's just kind of gender roles. I get it. But they were expecting a male to be the one to get on the roof. And of course, she climbed for probably 4 years, inspecting roofs. But,
Yeah.
so we would get some of that, when we would go to functions where other male roofers were there. At first they didn't really know how to treat us, but now we're all one of the guys. When you have that opportunity, you can really blaze your own path because people are not expecting you to do it. And
Right.
there's just haven't been a lot of women in roofing. Now, if you go to other states, there's like Texas, they got a ton of women in roofing. Florida, a ton of women
Interesting.
in roofing. But here, you just don't have a lot of women. And so we were kind of able to make it what we wanted, make our path what we wanted, and make it different than
Yeah,
they,
that's awesome.
you know. So it was good. Yeah.
So I have a question for you because, and it's kind of crazy because we did not prep, so you don't even know what I'm going to ask you. But I think a lot of people want to know what's it like working with family, right? I mean, you're the mother, you have your three children working with you, and you have a lot of other family members working with you. So how do you separate that? Because I mean, let's face it, I have five kids myself. How do you be the mom when you need to be the mom and then the business? I really do want to know how you do this.
It's a lot. We have a lot of family. And we get this question all the time, all the time.
Okay, well good. I
Yeah.
didn't even know that.
Yeah.
See?
And what I would say to that is the very first thing I'll say is when we decided to open the business, I told the kids from day one that if this business ever got in the way of our relationship, that I would shut it down because we all have equal ownership, but I have that extra 1%, right? And so I would shut it down. We just wouldn't have a business, okay? Because my entire family is worth more than a company, a dollar. It's worth more than anything. So that was number one. And number two, we figured out really early that we had to have clear separation. Now, I'm not going to tell you the first year, anytime we were around each other, we talked about roofing. I mean, we talked about Cypress Roofing 24/7. If it was a weekend, if it was at nighttime, whatever, we were always talking about it. But then We realized that there had to be a separation because we hang out all the time together. We hang out at night, we go to football games, we go to the camp, fishing. I mean, we're just a family that loves to be together. And so we figured out pretty quickly that we couldn't. And then other family members were sick of hearing about Cypress Roofing all the time. They're like, do we have to talk about Cypress Roofing? And so we really don't talk about it that much outside of the office unless we have to. Another thing that we learned to do pretty quickly was if we had an issue, about the company, that we addressed it immediately. If there were tough words that needed to be exchanged, that was okay. We would always do it respectfully, because we loved each other. But if we had to have tough conversations, then we had to have them. But literally the next second, we had to forget about it. So
That's good.
we didn't carry anything with us. We didn't carry grudges. We didn't carry this person hurt my feelings or whatever. It was just we had to have that conversation. Now we're done. Move on.
Yeah,
And
it's good.
we've done that not with just my kids. We've done that with all of our employees. We've done that with all of our family that work with us. And so we've just made some things that are non-negotiable. And, because if we didn't have that, I can't imagine this working. Because, even, Tammy, even now when people say, how is it working with your kids? I'm like, well, 99.9% of the time it's great. But that other 0.1%, go to your office. That's what I want to tell them.
Now, I think about when I used to work for you, it was always about setting expectations right up front so that people knew what to expect. And that's kind of what you're saying is like, hey, look, our family comes first no matter what.
No matter what. That's right.
So I want to kind of shift directions. I think that, again, so many people see the success and they're like, oh, they're lucky. Or, that just happened for them. That can't happen for me. But looking back, and I'm talking about as far as you can go, I know there were hard seasons in your life, just like there's hard seasons in all of our lives. And people sometimes think that they're the only one going through the season, right? Is there a particular season that you might have gone through in your life that you thought, okay, I don't know if I can come out of this, or you know what I'm saying? Is there anything that really comes to you that you feel like, man, that was a tough season, but now that you look back, you go, I'm who I am today because of that season.
Well, yeah, Tammy, and we touched on this earlier when I was terminated from a 22-year career that literally I had given everything to. I'm one of those people, I'm loyal to a fault. And, the only way that God can correct me sometimes is to take a big axe and literally just cut off what needs to be cut off. And so at the time, I didn't understand why it was happening. But now that I look back on that, I would still be at that corporate job today if they had not terminated me. I feel really strongly about that because I know who I am, right? And so it took me getting terminated and feeling completely lost for these great things in my life to happen. I'll go back to another situation when in corporate America. I had been with this company at the time probably 5 or 6 years. I knew I wanted to be a division manager. I was a district manager. And look, when I tell you I was doing everything in my power to get promoted, I mean, I was training people. I was, whatever they asked of me, I was doing, and it just wasn't happening. And I thought, Lord, they kept hiring people that were not as qualified as me, right? And I thought, and then I would train those people. They would train someone, they would hire somebody into the position that I wanted, and then they wanted them to ride with me for a couple of months. I was like,
Yep.
okay, And so, but what I know for a fact is that God had the plan, because if I would have gotten promoted when I wanted to get promoted, I was getting ready to go through a really bad divorce. If I would have gotten promoted when Caprice wanted, I probably would not have been successful in that new position because of what was happening. I
Interesting.
got
Yep.
promoted at the right time which was after 13 long years with the company. Now I realized I'd been trying to get promoted since my 5th year. So it took me
Wow.
8 more years to get promoted. But I know that I know that I know that it was especially perfect timing because I was at a point in my life where I could give it everything I needed to do with a clear head, a clear heart, and be successful. So, when you think that you're not getting what you want, just know that it's not the right time sometimes. God's got the clock, right? He's got that crystal ball that we wish that we could see into, right? But
Right.
he's the only one that can see into it. And
Yeah.
again, if he would have given it to me when Caprice wanted it, it would have been a disaster. I got it when I was supposed to get it. Now, I'm not going to tell you that I didn't keep working hard because I did. I kept working really hard to get promoted because we still have to do our part.
Right.
I can't just pray and say, "Oh, I wish I hope I get promoted one day," and then not do anything to make that happen. I mean, you still have to work hard. You still have to do the things necessary so that these things can come to fruition, right? And so I kept working hard, just being very frustrated sometimes. I mean, to the point where I would think about looking for other jobs, really looking for another job. But, when I
This
would.
sounds like a conversation you and I have had. I have come to you and said, things are not happening the way I think they should happen. And my gosh, you really
I
set
know,
me straight
right?
and said, you know what? It's going to
Okay,
happen when it's supposed to.
okay. I want to talk about you for a second, though, because let me just tell you, I want everybody to know
Are
this.
you fixing to switch over this?
I am. Okay. So I need to talk about you for a second because I need everybody watching, listening to know that when you came aboard on my team as a district sales manager, you'd really never been in sales before.
No, I
But
hadn't.
but what you had an incredible work ethic. You were a listener. You are a planner. You are a note taker extreme. You are, I mean, over the top, like me.
Yeah, I have a lot of
You
notebooks.
you are an analyzer. You are step 1 to 10. I mean, you're all these things. And so, I knew right away in your career that you were going to be successful because you had all of the pieces. You just needed somebody to point you in the right direction and just to give you hope and all those things, right? Motivation and all the things that get us going. But you are one of the most incredible people that I know, not just personally, but business wise, because you will not stop. When you have a goal, you will not stop until you've reached it. And there's not many people that will do that nowadays. Everybody wants everything handed to them on a silver platter, and that's just not how life works. We have to plan, and we have to have tons of action and all the things, and that's who you are, my friend.
Well, I appreciate that. And, something that I teach my sales team and my women that I get the opportunity to do life with today is something you taught us a long time ago. It's consistent, disciplined action, doing the right thing at the right time, no matter what. Take the emotions out and just get into action. And the action is where you're going to see the results, right? You taught me that. I teach my team that all the time.
The worst thing we can do, especially when you're sales, is to sit still. You
Right.
have to have massive action if you want massive results, right? We just
Yeah, it's
talked
good
about this
stuff.
at our meeting yesterday. So,
Yes, that's good stuff. So as we come to the end of our time together, I really want our listeners to be left with something tangible.
okay.
So if you could leave our listeners with one piece of advice, what is one step that they can take right now to claim it in their own life?
Okay. One step that they can do right now, what I would say is the phone call you've been wanting to make, the door knock you've been wanting to knock, the person you've been wanting to meet, Whatever that thing is for you, do it today before you go to bed. Don't think about it for another second. Don't wait until the right timing. Don't hope. I mean, I pray every day that God will give me all the things, right? But unless I put forth the action, nothing is ever going to change, right? I hear from people all the time, Tammy. They tell me, I want to call this person. I want to do this. I want to try to get business from this company or whatever. And I say, well, then what is stopping you?
That's
What
right.
is stopping you? And the thing that's stopping them is fear of rejection. So, Brother Larry from Bethany told me years and years ago in one of his sermons, he told us, don't worry about what other people are thinking about you because they ain't thinking about you. You see, I think people really are, first of all, they're afraid of what will happen if they make the call. Okay. Am I going to get rejected? And so, all of these things, right? And then they're going to worry when they hang up the phone. Well, what is that person going to think about me making
Yeah.
this phone call? Right. And
Right.
so, if we just take all that away, because you can't get business unless you go get business. If you don't make the phone call, then the answer is always no. I've told my kids this for a very long time. If you never ask the question, the answer is always no. And let me tell you, I have made calls before that the results blew my mind and I was afraid to make the call. I was afraid to knock the door. I was afraid to do whatever, the fearful thing was. But once I made myself do it, the results that I got from it, see, once I started making myself do it and I saw the results, then the
Right.
next time I needed to do it was a little easier. The next time was a little easier. The next time. And then before you know it, picking up the phone, talking to people you don't know, whatever, it becomes easier. I tell my people all the time, if you're not doing at least one uncomfortable thing a day, you're not growing.
It's
You
good.
have to do one really uncomfortable thing a day if you want to get to where you want to be. Because, if it was comfortable, then everybody would do it. And, Tammy, I really don't care what people think about me. That's another thing. I mean, you know what I mean.
I used to, but I'm turning 50 this year. So I'm like, you know what? I mean, I know where my heart is. And so if I'm reaching out to you because I have something that can benefit you, it's up to you whether you say yes or no, right? I
You know,
mean,
look,
I know where my heart is.
and
So I mean,
one thing that I told you a lot was we are the messengers. We are not the decision makers.
that's
The
right.
customer is the decision maker. We are just the messenger. It is my job as a salesman, as a leader, to share the message. What people decide to do with that message is on them. But I'm going to tell you right now, whoever shares the message the most is going to win. If I talk to 100 people today and you talk to one, I'm going to win because it's numbers. I know people, I know you've heard before it's a numbers game, and they're right. It is a numbers game because it's how many people are you introducing your product, service, whatever. If you're in sales, how many people are you introducing it to? And if it's small numbers, you're going to get small returns. If it's large numbers, you're going to get large returns. It's just the way it works, right?
Yes, yes. So, what I'm hearing you say, because you just gave every one of our listeners so many tips and tricks and just really
It's
good
hard for me to just say
information.
one thing.
But what I'm hearing you say is take the step that you've been avoiding. So, if it's making that phone call to someone, pick up the phone. If it's going and meeting somebody, go and meet that person, but do the one thing that's scaring you the most. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Absolutely. Because guys,
Okay.
we only have so much time on this earth and then we're gone.
That's right. That's right. Well, I just want to thank you for being with us today, Caprice. And I want to thank our listeners for tuning in. Guys, if this conversation encouraged you or reminded you that you're not alone in wherever it is that you're at, maybe you're in this messy middle season, I just want to invite you to share the episode with someone who needs it. And if you'd like to be added to our newsletter, I'll leave the link in comments. So thank you guys. Have a great rest of your week.